Hello and welcome to this review video. Today we are reviewing Codex Chaos Demons for Warhammer 40,000, which has been sent to me by Games Workshop free of charge for your reviewing pleasure. Right, well, first of all, I love the cover of the book. I love the way I love the way the pink horror is stopping the bullets from this sororitas with like a little wardy type thing that represents his invulnerable save. I think that's very cool. For the first time in quite a while, I've actually managed to play a game with this book before doing the review, so I have some experience to draw upon when reviewing. Suffice it to say, the sale of Flamers of Tzeentch is going to go through the roof. Buy them now, buy them now. They're going to be out of stock very quickly. Either at the same time as this review goes up or shortly afterwards, there should be a battle report going up on the channel where I play Chaos Demons versus Winters. Sorry. Bit of hero worship going on there. So my impressions of the book. There are some things I don't like about it, but the things I don't like about it are things I don't like about 9th edition and matched play and the competitive nature of it all. I will mention those as I go through, and I will probably have a fair few little grumbles about them as I go through, but those aside, I think this is a fantastic book. I really think it's well written. I think the rules are well put together with the aforementioned exceptions, which I'll get to when I get to them. And there are a number of things in here which I hope. Sorry, I've been doing Skaven stuff. Hope, yes. I hope that they are a sign of things to come for the next edition of 40k, because this is one of the last codices. There's Imperial Guard to come after this, and maybe, if we're lucky, squats in this edition that I'm aware of. They're the only things I can think of. I have no insider information or any of that. So as we're going through it, I'm going to infer some things that I'm going to speculate, may be a direction of travel for 10th ed. Because I think we'll get 10th ed in 2023. Think. Okay, so let's get going. So first off, the lore sections aren't going to be anything too surprising to anyone. There's not an awful lot they can say about the unknowable and the ineffable, because so much of this we can't relate to from a human perspective. There's not a huge amount in there. But I think what there is good, and what there is enough. But as ever, the intro page has got a little thing written on it, which I like reading out. It is an age where the darkest dreams of humanity are surpassed daily by the stark horrors of their reality. The galaxy overflows with nightmares made flesh, yet even in these dread times, there are powers of such inimitable malevolence that the mere knowledge of their existence must be suppressed, lest it shatter the resolve of all mankind. But innocence is not the same as safety. Through the tattered veil of the real, from amidst the roiling madness and infinite corruption of the warp, the demons of chaos spill forth to claim the souls of the ignorant and the dreadfully enlightened alike, and to plunge all of reality into final and everlasting damnation. So, narrative-wise, we have... Oh, there's another one. I'm going to read this as well. I haven't pre-read this one. It begins with the slightest flaw, be it the subtle whisper stoking ambition, the frenzied fury of battle, the despair of inescapable entropy, or the desire for change. All it takes is a single chink in the armour of reality, a vulnerable mind, a tainted soul, to unleash all the legions of the warp. To fight these supernatural terrors is to do battle with one's own darkest nature. Demons wrought from despair, obsession, fury and cunning stalk through manifesting storms of misery and infernos of lust. Malevolent entities shudder in and out of reality, shrugging off hails of gunfire as though the shots had never been loosed. Heartbeat by frantic heartbeat, they close in from all sides. Those who stand and fight face a nightmarish battle against creatures that cannot truly be slain, and delight in tormenting their victims and breaking their minds. Those who flee fare no better. There is no escaping such tireless malevolence. Even death is no release, for to die at the talons of the demons of chaos is to feel one's soul torn free and plunged into eternal torment. Wow. That's interesting though, because in previous narrative things it says that human souls can't feel eternal torment because they can't stand up to the warp for long. They just get torn apart. It's only things like Eldari souls that can be in eternal torment because they stay whole. Interesting. One moment. Thirsty. Okay, we got a nice little bit about the nature of demons, which is cool, and to pierce the veil, a sort of how demonic incursions come about. Demonic incursions come about, and a little bit about the Inquisition and how they fight demon kind, which is all good stuff, all nice background. There's some lovely artwork in here there, and I don't know if some of these are from old publications. They have a real realm of chaos type feel to them, but there are some lovely artwork. I mean, I'm looking at the Khorne pages now, thinking, I'd like some artwork on the walls of these. They look cool. So we have a sort of similar pattern all the way through. We've got a double page spread on Khorne and Demons of Khorne, then a double page spread, well, it's really one page and some artwork and some little ditties about a war zone into which Khorne has encroached, fighting some orcs. Then we have the same for Tzeentch, double page spread, then Warzone Garmesh, a Tzeentchian thing, then a double spread for Nurgle. It's nice the way on the pages everything on the background of the Khorne page is red, everything on the background of the Tzeentch page is a sort of mauvey purple, everything on Nurgle is green. The artwork is great. There's some really nice art. There's some really nice artwork. Warzone Malinor for Nurgle. Then we have similar hues to Tzeentch, but more purpley than bluey on Slaanesh. These are. I'm sure these are new pictures. They are dark. They're dark. And then we have Warzone Pasiphion. Who are they against? Drukhari. No, Ultramarines. Hang on, 1 minute. I haven't read this page. When Drukhari raiders struck at the imperial colony of Pasiphium, the sadistic aliens inflicted unrelenting misery and terror upon the planet's people. The Drukhari became caught up in their cruel sport, lingering long enough that the Ultramarine strike force Arvus arrived to deliver the Emperor's vengeance, yet the Space Marines' victory had unintended consequences. Then, as you might expect, we've got a section on the Great Rift, and then a page on Bellacor, the beast that he is. We've then got a short story. We've got a 4-page short story, which is nice. It's a guardsman story. Yeah, Grenadiers, guardsmen. Then a good section on the Eye of Terror, bit of a map, and it's sort of got I don't know quite how to describe it, but it sort of it's colours, right? And the colours in the middle are more intense, and as they get further out, they're lighter and lighter, sort of indicating the overlap with warp space. But it's got a lot of things that are now touched by the eye to a greater or lesser extent. It marks on some Imperial worlds, some Space Marine home worlds. The Husk of Cadia is quite nice. That's marked on there. And Medusa. I did not realise that Medusa was so touched. That could be interesting. Then we're on to pictures. We're on to lovely, lovely pictures. Khorne, Tzeentch, and again the backgrounds on the page have the colour that matches the god. Very nice, very nice. And then a big page of Bellacor. Apologies, forgot to mute my phone there. Yeah, big picture of Bellacor. Some nice little vignettes. Demons versus Custodes. Imperial Fist versus a shed load of demons. Then a really big, nice 4-god spread against a thin white line of Tau. I mean, that's like 500 points of Tau. Maybe a little more. Yeah. Oh, and Bellacor. I'm back at, yeah, those Tau. Screwed. Now we're into the rules. Now, there are some generic rules and some and then there's then the book is split into the 4 gods. So all the Khorne stuff is together, all the Tzeentch, all the Nurgle, all the Slaanesh. And when you're playing all 4 gods, you have to jump around a little bit, but it's not really a big deal. But it's really handy when you've got a mono god army that you are playing. Really handy indeed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Detachment Abilities. First off, it's a bit wordy, but basically this rule says that troop units get OBSEC, but swarms don't. So basically Nurglings aren't OBSEC, which is good. They should not be objective secured, because they just Nurgle. They don't actually go, this is ours. You could argue that with the rest of the demons, but especially with the tiny little baby Nurglings. Demonic legions. If you've got a greater demon in your army, it must be the Warlord. If you've got multiple greater demons, one of them must be the Warlord. Also, if you've got greater demons, you can take a Herald of the same type, of the same god, without taking up a HQ slot, which is nice. Standard relic stuff. Demonic allies. It's just so neatly done. How is this worded? I mean, the short version is you can take a detachment of demons with your Chaos Marine armies without losing any of your keyword stuff, and as long as the demons are less than 25% of the value of the army. So you're playing 2k, you can take 500 points of demons as allies without any of your rules changing, which was a big issue with the previous book. And made it kind of unplayable, that if you wanted to take some Nurgle demons with your Death Guard lost half their stats. And demons haven't sold. But how is it worded? Basically, the detachment gains the Agent of Chaos keyword. Now, if you go back to the Chaos Space Marine book, units with the Agent of Chaos keyword don't make you lose all your stuff. But I'm noticing some odd wording here. Ah, right, okay, so the specifics, it's saying, it's wordy. It's that many words to basically say, if you're World Eaters, you can take Khorne demons. If you're Death Guard, you can take Nurgle Demons. Not so. If you're wanting to take Tzeentch Demons with Death Guard, doesn't let you do that. Or more to the point, you come up against the keyword problems and half your rules go away. So good. Took me a while to get my head around what I was getting at. Some more artwork, but this artwork is not new. Now, data sheet abilities. So there's about 4 pages of generic stuff, but it's not too complex, and it's neatly done, and it plays quite intuitively, and there was not a lot of hopping around the book for me, which was great, because one of the reasons I've played so little 40k recently is because so many of the armies have been made mind-bendingly complicated to play for minimal benefit. So, and that's kind of why there are certain armies in 40k I'm just not playing at the moment, because they're just too difficult. Some are easy, I'm playing them. Ironically, the very recent ones and the very first ones still quite playable. All the gumph that came out in the middle, useless for me. Okay, so malefic weapons. So this, I think, is a nod to something they are going to put in 9th edition. So there are a number of Chaos units that have... the easiest example is like Rider and Mount. They've got 2 different sets of attacks. So let's take a Bloodletter on a Juggernaut, or a Blood Crusher, as the kids these days call it. Bloodletter on a Juggernaut. You've got X number of attacks on the profile, and then in the old book it said the Crushing Horn, which is obviously part of the Mount, that's the Juggernaut. It said you can only make 2 attacks with this weapon, or make 2 extra attacks with this weapon. And there's a few like that. So you've got differentiation between the Rider and the Mount, and some units have got like a spiky tail, and you can make 1 attack with your spiky tail. They've covered this as malefic. There's a keyword, and if it's got a number next to it, so malefic 2, malefic 4, etc. If the weapon says malefic 2 next to it, then you make 2 attacks with it. No more, no less. The attacks on your profile, number irrelevant. The number on your profile is used for other weapons. So in that example, it might say Hellblade and big Juggernaut Horn. The Hellblade would just say nothing next to it. The Juggernaut Horn would say Malefic 2 next to it. So you take the attack number off the profile to use for your Hellblade, because that's your Bloodletter, and then the enemy then gets the Horn from Malefic 2. Your Juggernaut attacks twice. Sorry, I wanted to say gets the Horn. The Juggernaut with the Horn, that's better. The Juggernaut with the Horn gets 2 attacks because it says Malefic 2. Can't do any more, can't do any fewer. So that's Malefic. Now, Demonic Invulnerability is nice. Now, there's an interesting thing with this. These are effectively invulnerable saves, but absolutely nowhere here does it say an invulnerable save. So I wonder if invulnerable saves are on the way out. I wonder if invulnerable saves have caused too much power bloat and complexity, and they're going to get rid. Because it says here, these saving throws cannot be modified in any way. Or this saving throw cannot be modified in any way. Rather than saying it's an invulnerable save. If you look at AOS, there's no such thing as an invulnerable save, but the likes of the Night Haunts have saves that you cannot modify in any way. You cannot rend in any way, so it feels like they're doing the same thing. Now with the Demons, I've got 2 save profiles. The simplest way of describing it is they've got a save against ranged and a save against melee. The idea, the narrative rationale behind it is the melee weapons, the thing that they're fighting is close to them. The person will ignore the fact that doesn't allow for complexities like robots and Necrons. Necrons. Ignoring that anomaly for the moment and the rest of the video. Ignoring that, when you're near the spirit, the person reflects in the warp. That means their attacks have more potency. They also tend to be more primeval in terms of it's a piece of metal that's cutting, or it's a rock, or it's a fist, but being close to the spirit, the anger, the emotion that goes into the attack is more likely to hurt the demon. When you're throwing an arrow further away, the distance between the reflection and the warp, as the arrow hits, it's got no reflection in the warp. So ranged demon saves are better than close quarter demon saves, which I have to say plays really nicely. It does play really nicely because it lets you get some of your demons close to your opponent before you get utterly annihilated. And then you hit hard, but you get taken down more easily in close combat. So I do like it. I do like it. Now, Manifestation is interesting. This is oh, I must have missed this. One moment, caller. Okay, yeah, I did miss that, but I don't think it applied. Maybe it did. We'll come back to this. So, Manifestation. You can set up any unit with that word, effectively deep striking. They can manifest from the warp. So, they go as reserves, you set them up more than 9 inches away from an opponent, or within 6 inches of a warp locus. That's a keyword. I'll have to look as we're going through what counts as a warp locus, because I didn't pick up on this first time through. If you're within 6 inches of a warp locus, you have to be more than 6 inches away from your opponent. Nice. Then, now this is the bit I really, really like. If every unit from your army... Okay, so this next one only applies if you're playing a pure demonic, pure demon army. How far away you have to deep strike depends on where on the battlefield it is. Now, bear with me, this isn't as complex as it's possibly sounding. In your opponent's deployment zone, you're always deep striking at 9 inches away. In your own deployment zone, you can deep strike as long as you are more than 3 inches away. So you go into the deployment zone of a demonic opponent, they are where the warp storm is strongest, they are going to appear and charge you. They just are. Nice. If you're in no man's land, the maximum distance you have to be away from, the minimum distance you have to be away from your opponent is equal to I was just checking because of champions, is equal to their leadership, the target unit's leadership. So if you're doing this against a Necron, their leadership's 10, it caps at 9. Their leadership's 10, so you have to stay more than 9 inches away. If you're trying to deep strike next to Gretchen, who have a leadership of, I want to say 5, and you're in no man's land, you can deep strike 5 inches away. So units that have a low leadership but have other ways of mitigating morale failure, you can deep strike close AF to them, which is nice. But again, just picking up on the fact that it only applies if it's a pure demon army. The warp locus bit, however, applies to all. Demonic Terror is another one of the generic rules. There's only 2 more of these to go. If you're within 6 inches of the unit, -1 to leadership and -1 from combat attrition tests, which is nice. People should run away from demons because they're demons. And then Warp Storm. This ability can be used to apply Warp Storm effects to eligible units from your army. Now, I saw this and thought, oh, it's going to be another mind-bendingly complicated when this happens and that happens and it's a Tuesday and your opponent's wearing a wig and the dice are blue and you roll 7 12s in succession on a D-sided dice, you might get 1 point of this. But it's not. It's not. At the start of the battle round, you roll 8 dice. For every 4 or more you get a Warp Storm point for that battle round. That's it. That's how you acquire them. The Warp Storm effects are 5 categories. There's Undivided, Korn, Nurgle, Tzeentch, Slanesh. You use them at different times, and I haven't read everyone in detail, but I believe when you spend them, they apply to the whole army. Most of these apply to the whole army. So if you're running a mono demon army, if you're running a Nurgle army, spending all your points on the Nurgle ones is really going to buff the whole army. If you're playing a mix, then that effect is going to be lessened. But the cost of some of these, the highest is 5, the cheapest is 2. There are, at the end of the battle round, these points go away. There are some abilities in the book that let them roll over. But that's not particularly widespread, and the ones I've seen so far have either been relics or warlord traits. I think it's warlord traits, actually. Maybe it's relics. I can't remember. So you can save them up and go for the big bada boom when you want to. But I am going to go through all of these, because these are like stratagems. That's the other thing. There aren't 500 million stratagems in here, 4,000 of which all do vaguely the same thing. Which is nice. I really hope that when they do the cards, I don't have the cards to go through with you, I hope these are on the cards as well. That would be really helpful. GW, please. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pray with half a hand, but the other hand's holding the book. Please put these in the card decks. Because then you can build a little deck of the things you might want to do and throw out the ones that are irrelevant, and that's what I do with a stratagem. Oh, anyway, I'm digressing. So the Undivided ones, Dark Invigoration for 5 Warp Storm points. Every unit in the morale phase, 1 model in every unit can regain up to D3 lost wounds. If the model has a wound characteristic of 1, you can instead regain D3 destroyed models, and they no longer count as being destroyed for the purposes of morale tests. Each unit can only be replenished once per turn. So I have just missed something. I said I was going to come back, and I'm going to go right back. I'm going to go back now. But putting a pause on warp spawn points, and we're going to jump back to manifestation. Now, what is quite interesting is the maximum distance from your opponent being 3 inches if you're deploying if they're in your zone. Now, 3 inches is engagement range in Age of Sigmar. If you are if you're within 3 inches at the start of the fight phase, you can activate and fight. And why else would you have 3 inches being the is this an indication that we're going to move to something similar? Because in AOS, right, this is the wild speculation part of the video that doesn't actually relate to the subject, but I'm going there. In AOS, you declare a charge. You declare that you are charging. You roll the dice. You can move to any enemy unit that's in that range. None of this. I've nominated them, but I've ended up close to them, and they've piloted, so I can't attack them. None of that. You move. You get it. You decide where you go to charge to. You move. If at the start of the fight phase you're within 3 inches. Sorry. If when you pick a unit to activate, you're within 3 inches, you can activate them. Doesn't matter who you charge. Doesn't matter if you were charged. If someone else has charged your unit and you happen to be within 3 inches, you activate. Does this mean that's where we're heading? I really hope so, because it's really, really simple and straightforward to play. Really simple, really straightforward. Right, back to the Warp Storm effects. So that was Dark Invigoration. Get wounds / models back across the army. Primeval Terror, 3 points. When you're in range of the Demonic Terror ability, you subtract 2 from your leadership. So, you've hit their lines, you've done some damage to them. Okay, you're now on -2 rather than -1 for your leadership. Music of the Warp, 2 points. Add 6 inches to the range of your Demonic Terror ability for instrument units in your army. We'll get into this later in the units, but if you take an instrument, you gain the instrument keyword, and that means some stuff. It doesn't cost you any points to do it. That's one thing we'll get on to. They seem to have rolled the cost of many, many, many things into a flat cost for the unit. Also a nod to AOS. Also a thing I love, because having spent such a long time on AOS and starting to get my 40k mojo back a bit, making army lists in 40k is one of the big differences. It takes so long, so frustrating, so annoying. Yeah, I want them to AOS that up. Not totally, because 40k is a different beast, but things like, if you take a banner, if you take a musician, it costs 5 points, it costs 10 points. Oh, I haven't quite got enough points, this, that, and the other. No, unit cost is this. Take this stuff or don't take this stuff. It's up to you. I like that. I like the simplicity that brings with it. So yeah, 6 inches to the monitor. Imagine if you had the 5 Warp Storm points and you could do Music of the Warp to increase the range to 12 inches and Primeval Terror to make it an extra -1. Ooh. Malicious Misdirection, 2 points. Use the reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase. Enemy strategic reserve units can only be set up as if it were the second battle round. So you think you're going to, you're going to outflank me. Actually, none of these demons were actually here. We were fooling you. They're over there, so you're late. Magnified Glory, 3 points. Extend the range of aura abilities. Use at the start of any turn until the end of the turn. Extend the range of aura abilities by 3 inches for your army. It says Legiones Demonica unit, so you can't use it. Now, do Warp Storm effects... Every unit has to have the Legiona Demonica keywords. You can't do this if you've got Astartes legions. However, you can do it if you've got Agents of Chaos. What counts as an Agent of Chaos? Can you get Marines to be Agents of Chaos? Don't know. If, however you're doing it, you're getting other units in this army, it will only affect the Legion ones, the Demon ones. 2 points. Otherworldly Tread. Ignore any and all modifiers to move, advance, and charge. I used that one. That was handy. The chuffing big wall in the way. Otherworldly Tread. No, there isn't. Descending Shadow. If you're more than 3 points, if you're more than 12 inches away, -1 to hit. I used that as well. That was handy too. Insidious Whispers. Using your opponent's psychic phase. If a psyker is within 12 inches of a demon unit, each time they take a psychic test, they perils on any double. I like that. It works nicely with, whilst I don't consider these armies particularly playable at the moment, if you're using Thousand Suns or Craftworld Eldar with Farseers, the things that have got ways of negating perils. So that's kind of nice. They're being battered, and some of them can batter it away, but sometimes it won't work, sometimes it will. It's nice. They're all the undivided ones, so irrespective of whether you are a blended demon army or a or a mono demon, or bi-demon, or you're just excluding one. Regardless, these apply to the whole army. Now we come to the god-specific ones. There are 3 of each. Khorne. Fury of Khorne, 4 points. Add 1 to attack. For all your... These basically all say... these are all Khorne demon units. The Nurgle ones are all Nurgle demon units. I'm going to stop reading that bit out, but +1 attack at the start of the fight phase. Burning Terror, 2 points. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 24 inches of a demon unit. That's not on an area terrain piece. They suffer d3 mortal wounds. Waves of fire rippling along the ground. Overwhelming Rage, 4 points. In your opponent's movement phase, until the end of the phase, excluding aircraft, units cannot fall back unless they roll a 4+ first. Overwhelming Rage. The proximity of... You see this in the stories as well. The proximity of Khorne makes them so angry and aggravated. The rage just boils out and they do stupid things, like not running away from Khorne demons. Okay, Nurgle. 4 points, Swarming Insects. Start the fight phase. Add 1 to a hit in melee. Your enemy's so distracted by these insects, they're much easier to hit. Plague of Rust, 2 points. Increase the armor penetration of anything that attacks a vehicle by 1. Wave of Sickness. Roll a d6 for each unit within 12 inches of a Nurgle demon. On a 6, it suffers d3 mortal wounds. Back in the day, 3rd Ed, 3rd, 4th Ed, Nurgle. One of the things that you got from Mark of Nurgle was, I can't remember when it happened, but you had to roll the dice for every unit within a certain range of Plague Marines. And on a 6, the unit took a wound. Can't remember what it was called. Nurgle's Rot. That's what it was called. It's a nod to that. It's nice, I like it. Tzeentch, Deluge of Fire, 4 points. Improve the ballistic skill characteristic of your demons by 1. They've got a lot of shooting. So a lot of the abilities that were sort of like, oh, they're magical, so you can cast spells, but you're really, really rubbish at it. They've changed those to sort of ranged attacks that are demonic in nature, which I like. Simple, easy, sweet. But Sorceress wins, 3 points. Add 1 to psychic tests. Rampant Mutation, 3 points. Each time a Tzeentch demon makes a melee attack, unmodified wound rolls of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound in addition to normal damage. Each unit can only suffer a maximum of 3 mortal wounds as a result of this effect per phase. That is the kind of thing that should have a little symbol next to it that says match play, because that is an incredibly narrative thing, and capping it at 3 is really annoying from a narrative point of view. How difficult would it be to have that on a separate line with a little MP next to it? How hard would that be? Grumble. You're going to hear me say that quite a bit, because there's a lot of maximum of this, maximum of that. No. Stuff your maximums, because narrative. Absolutely maximums match play, because you're doing competition. You don't want something to be open to overuse, abuse, unforeseen, grotesque combos. Absolutely. But don't you put it in my narrative play by baking it into the rule set. Okay. Slaanesh. Mesmerizing Dance, 4 points. Enemy units... Slaanesh demons gain always fight first. They don't have it as a... So, the demon units in this book do not have a boatload of special rules against all of them. Most of the things that were achieved through special rules in previous books are achieved through the stat line, which is really nice. The stat line and the weapons profiles. The 500 rules and the if you're near a character you get this, if you're not near a character you get that. If it's Thursday morning and you're wearing a cravat, you get the other. That's pretty much gone. It's all blended into the stat line. So Slanesh Demons don't fight first by as an automatic thing, but Mesmerizing Dance, 4 points, you fight first. Lightning Speed, 3 points, add 1 to advance or charge. Dark Hallucinations, 2 points. Start your opponent's turn. If you're within 12 inches of Slanesh Demons, make a leadership test. So roll 2d6. If it's higher than your leadership, oh no, I've got this wrong. Every time your opponent, this is why it's only 2 points. Every time your opponent starts to perform an action, roll 2d6. If it's greater than their leadership, the action fails and that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Now I think that will be nice in competitive play, because competitive play is where you see more action. You don't tend to see it in some of the more narrative sides of things, and that can be a nice little spanner to throw into people's well-laid plans. So that's cool. Yeah. Another sip. So thirsty. Sorry, opening the next one. Ready? It's a marathon, this. It's a marathon activity. Professional people would cut stuff and edit. They aren't me. Right, then we have the Book of Blood, which is the Khorne section. There's a little bit of bump that says you can only give these warlords to Khorne demons, you can give these relics to Khorne demons, these data sheets all have Khorne keyword, blah 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 blah. That's all pretty commonsensical. Ignore. Exalted Bloodthirsters. So there's an exalted thing for each of them. There are exalted Bloodthirsters, exalted Lords of Change, and so on. There was a load of stuff in one of the Psychic Awakening books where you could do all sorts of shenanigans and things to your greater demons. There are 3 abilities per god, and they are X number of points or additional power to upgrade to your greater demons. There's a bit about Crusade. I don't really care about that. Yeah, saying you need a requisition to do it. Let me just see if there's anything specific in here. I can't see anything that says you can't do multiples of these. And now we can't have the same ability more than once, and named characters, e.g. Scarbrand, can't have them. Okay, I'm going to assume that's the same for all the flavours of demon. So, Indomitable Onslaught, 40 points. This model cannot lose more than 8 points in the same phase. Any wounds lost after this point would not be lost. Master of the Blood Tide, 20 points. Every time the model fights, if it made a charge, was charged, etc., add 1 to strength and attack. Rage Unchained, 35 points. Considered to have double the number of wounds left for determining what its characteristics are. Okay, they all feel reasonably characterful. None of those are totally game-breaking. Then we have the Khorne Stratagems. Now, one of the things I found about the Stratagems was there weren't any must-dos. I didn't see any that I was like, yeah, I'm going to use this again and again and again and again and again. I didn't find any of that. They all felt more situational, which is nice. That's how I want stratagems to be. I don't want it to be a tax that you have to pay to make your army function, or things being so powerful there's no reason to not use them. So, yeah, Frenetic Bloodlust. For Bloodletters, if you're in engagement range, you can make a pile in. This is to start the fight phase, so you can get more models closer. If you're not in engagement range, you can make a 6-inch move that must move you closer to the nearest visible enemy unit. Nice. Costs 1 CP if you're making a normal move, 2 CP if you're doing a pile-in move. Glorious Decapitation. If you kill an enemy character with a Khorne character, they gain an aura called Slayer Champion. From that point on, Khorne demons within 6 inches of you, when they roll a 6 to hit, they inflict a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. You can use Stratagem once. A unit can only suffer a maximum of 6 mortal wounds as a result of this ability. Where's my little match play symbol? Relic of the Brass Citadel. Take another relic. Contempt for Sorcery. Is an ability to counteract psychic powers. Fleshhounds do it better. I'm curious now. Enemy Psycho within 24 inches. Use the stratagem in your opponent's psychic. It didn't come up because I've played Necrons. Use the stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase after a psychic test has been passed for an enemy Psycho and after any Deny the Witch attempt has been made. Okay, so these might be in a generic... you might have Deny the Witch coming from Tzeentch demons or any other non-Khorne demon, I suppose, or from a Marine or something. If the enemy Psychic is within 24 inches of any Khorne demon, roll a d6, adding 1 to the result if that enemy Psychic is within 12 inches of Fleshhounds. On a 4+, the psychic power is denied. Nice. Brass Stampede. Cavalry or vehicles, which basically means all the chariot-y things. When you charge, roll the dice. Add 3 to the result if it's a vehicle, so one of the chariot-y things. On a 6 to 8, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 9, it suffers 3 plus D3 mortal wounds. So basically, your general cavalry on a 6 will deliver D3 mortal wounds. Do you roll this for each model? You do roll it for each model. Oh, that's different. I thought this was per unit. Got that wrong. You roll a d6 for each model. Every 6 does d3 mortal wounds, but if it's the chariot-y vehicle thing, which I suppose might include Soul Crushers, on a 4, basically because it says add 3, on a 4+, it's d3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, it's 3 plus d3. Right, that's because they are single model units. So if you've got a big unit of Juggernauts going in, yeah, you're going to get a 6, or you might get a couple of 6s, bunch of mortal wounds. If you've got one model, you don't want it to be just on a 6, you want it to be on a 4+, and then the option for more on a 6. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Then Banner of Blood. Play on an icon unit. Then when you charge, roll 2 dice, an extra d6, and discard the lowest. And they're the Khorne stratagems. There's nothing must use on here, but some things that are nice. Also a nod to AOS. So then we've got Warlord Traits and Relics. Now I'm not going to go through all the Warlord Traits and all the Relics for all the gods, but I'm going to do a couple. Aspect of Death, Aura. -1 from leadership and combat attrition tests if you're within 6 inches of that Warlord. Brazen Hide, 5+ shrug. Devastating Blow. You cannot use abilities that ignore wounds against the Warlord. You see, these are really succinct. The reason I normally don't go through all these is because they normally take half an hour to read. Glory of Battle. Add 1 to the Warlord's attack characteristic. If you're within 3 inches of 6 or more models. Yeah, okay, I'm going to have a small bet. That's going to be the engagement range in 10th Ed. If you're within 3 inches of 6 or more models. Doesn't mention engagement range. If you're within 3 inches of 6 or more models, add 1 to the Warlord's attack. If you're within 3 inches of 11 or more models, add another 1 to their attack. Immense Power. Add 1 to wound in melee. Rage Incarnate. Add 1 to advance and charge. If you're declaring... Oh, here... Okay, it says engagement range here. I've maybe lost that bet. If a friendly unit is charging a unit that's already fighting... that's already engaged with this Warlord, add 1 to charge rolls. Add 1. Armour of Scorn. Corn monster only. Every time damage 1 attacks that you get hit by, you add 1 to saves. Now, what's interesting is, I mean, there is a rule that says you never ever modify saves. My interpretation is that you do with this, but I'm not quite sure about that. And also the ability to shrug mortal wounds in the psychic phase. The Crimson Crown. At the end of the battle round, if the model killed anything, you can retain up to 2 unspent Warp Storm points. Rune of Brass. Gains an aura. When an enemy cycle is within 12 inches, all doubles cause perils, and perils cause D6 mortal wounds instead. Have that, you Eldari. Blood Drinker Talisman. Every time it destroys a model, roll the dice. On 5+, you regain a wound. The America not going to regain more than 6 wounds. Match play. Because that would just be such an amazing narrative twist. It mows down a unit of Marines and becomes entirely healed. And like the captain goes, I can't account for that. I can't plan around that. I can't anticipate that. It just happens. You want to be able to plan and anticipate that if you're playing in a competition. Angrath, the King of Blades. Select one melee weapon. Add 1 to the damage characteristic. So this isn't... add 1 to the damage characteristic. Ignore all modifiers to hit roll and wound roll. The weapon is now considered a relic for rules purposes. Skull Reaver is an axe with a particular profile. Then we're into demons. So I'm going to go through Scarabrand. Bloodthirsters, main profile, strength 8, toughness 8, 20 wounds, 8 attacks, 4+ save again in melee, 4+ against range. With weapon options. There's no sort of 3 different types of Bloodthirster, it's just weapon options. You start off with Hellfire Breath and a Great Axe, and you can replace the Great Axe with a Blood Flail or a Lash. As I said, I'm not going to go through every bit of all of them. Bloodmaster. So, this is your Herald, as was. 2+ weapon skill. Strength 6, toughness 5, 4 wounds, 5 attacks, 4+4+ save. I think all the Khorne demons, apart from the Fleshhounds, are 4+4. No, okay, they're not. They're not. No, they do vary. They vary. His Blade of Blood is strength user, -3, 3 damage. He has 2 special rules. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 Legion units within 6 inches. And pick a core unit within 6 inches, and they do automatic wounds when they hit on a 6. The ones I really want to focus on are the units. Bloodletters. So, no special rules other than demonic. No special abilities on the weapon. The Hellblade is strength user, -3, 2 damage. Marine killer. And this next bit's true of all the all the units, so I won't read them back at. Are they true? Are they the same for everyone? I'll have to check. Demonic icon. You gain the icon keyword. You ignore all modifiers to combat attrition tests. Instruments of Chaos. You gain the instrument keyword. Add 1 leadership to all the models in the unit. They have a base leadership of 6, the champion having 7, so this gets them to 8. The Bloodletters base profile. 3+ to hit, 5 strength of 5, toughness of 4, 2 attacks, 1 wound, 5+ saving melee, 4+ at range. Blood Crushers. These are 5 toughness 5, 4 wounds, 4+4+ on the save. Bladed Horn is a Malefic 4 weapon, which is yes, so you're going to get 4 attacks with it. The Hellblade is, as per the Bloodletter, the relevant the stats that are relevant to a. No, I'm wrong. 3 attacks from the Bloodletter that's riding it. So no sort of like random, no abilities you've got to remember on either of those 2 core units. Fleshhounds do have some abilities. Fleshhounds can deny the witch once per phase as if it were a psyker. Savage Pounce. If you attack, if you charge, are charged, etc., you add 1 to the damage characteristic of the Fleshhounds. But other than that, it's all in the profile. 2 wounds, 3 attacks, strength 5, Gore-Drenched Fangs, AP -2, 1 damage. So my usual gripe is that the book's full of AP. You know, there's nothing that you would expect to be low AP in here. None of it's low AP. That's a 9th head complaint of mine. Oops. That's a 9th head complaint of mine rather than this book. The Skull Cannon. 48-inch range, heavy D3+3, strength 8, -2, 2 damage, blast, ignores cover. Hits on a 3+. Yeah, it's nice. 2 attacks in combat. 2 attacks in combat from the biting maw of the Skull Cannon. And the attendant's Hellblades are Malefic 4. So you get 4 attacks from Hellblades and 2 attacks from the Chariot itself. Why didn't they do it the other way around? It's curious. Then we have the Skull Altar. I don't recall seeing this before. This is a piece of terrain. This is a fortification. It's common in AOS. While a psychic is within 18 inches of it, subtract 2 from psychic tests. So short version, it counts as a vehicle that you can put a herald in. So basically a herald can stand on top of the altar and perform the ritual slaughter action. And roll a dice for each corn demon unit within 12 inches of the altar. On a 4+, you gain a warp storm point. That is so cool. The herald's just sat there offing people. And the demon and the tide of the warp gets thicker. Note to self, buy one of those. Then we're into the Book of Change. So Siege Demons. Exalted Lords of Change. They have 3 abilities. Architect of Deception. Subtract 1 to hit. Ranged attack -1 to hit against this model. 35 points. Master Mutator. At the end of your psychic phase, roll a d6 for each enemy unit that's suffered any mortal wounds. On a 2+, the unit suffers another mortal wound. Nexus of Fate. In the command phase, roll a d6. On a 4+, you gain a command point. Tzeentch Stratagems. Minions of Magic. Shooting phase, pick a unit of horrors. If they roll a 6 to wound... Oh, I was playing that wrong. I was rolling that as a 6 to hit. Okay, that makes more sense. Because it didn't feel particularly intuitive, because I had to separate piles of dice and stuff. Yeah. So if you roll 6 to wound, the AP goes to -3. It's nice. I like that. That's magic. Burning Warp Fire. Short version, Flamers gain Blast. It's not quite that, but yeah, if you're targeting a big unit, it maximises the hits from Flamers. Warp Jaws. When Screamers or a Burning Chariot fights, add 1 to wound. So none of these are must-dos, but they're situational and nice. Magical Boon. Take an extra psychic test. Does that mean Sorry, I'm just checking back at the corner one, see if I inadvertently glossed over something, assuming what it was. No, I didn't. It's because it's in a different place on the page. It's confusing me. Yeah, manifest an additional psychic power. Relics of the Impossible Fortress. Take an extra relic. Warp Portal. Instead of moving, a character you can take a Tzeentch character off the table and put it back on more than 9 inches away from an enemy unit. 1 CP if it's a Herald, 2 CP if it's a monster. Flames of Mutation. Every time you destroy a horror in melee, roll a dice. On a 6, the unit suffers a mortal wound. That's really nice. Maximum of 6 mortal wounds. Should say match play next to it. Blasted Standard. Select a Tzeentch icon unit. Each time you make an unmodified psychic test of 9 or more, within 12 inches of that unit, the closest enemy unit within 24 inches suffers a mortal wound. So it feeds off psychic energy and zap, 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 zap. Could be quite nice if you're clustered and... yeah. So they're the Tzeentch stratagems. There are no generic stratagems in this book. So where I'm reading out the corn ones and you've got a corn army, that's it. Which is nice. I like that. Okay, the Pandemoniac Discipline. So, Boon of Change is a buffing spell on nearby Tzeentch units. Can add 2 to move, 1 to strength, 1 to toughness. Depending on what you roll, you either have to randomise or choose. Bolt of Change. 18 inches, pick an enemy unit, roll 9 dice, 5 pluses, do a mortal wound. For each mortal wound... for every model destroyed, does an additional mortal wound. Maximum of 3. As they hideously mutate and then start killing their friends. Amuses me. Gaze of Fate. At the end of the battle round, you can retain up to 2 unspent warp storm points. Treason of Tzeentch. So rather, this used to be get an enemy unit to attack its own side. Now you play it on an enemy unit and they cannot benefit from aura abilities because you just confuse them. They don't listen to their mates. Eternal Flames. Cast on a friendly Tzeentch unit. Add 1 to wound rolls from ranged attacks. Infernal Gateway. Okay. Closest enemy unit within 18 inches and every other enemy unit within 3 inches of that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the result of the psychic test was 12 or more, it's 3 mortal wounds instead. Right, so you cast it on an enemy unit and you open a portal to the warp and they get sucked in and nearby units are affected as well as the portal goes but with more wind. That's probably a Nurgle portal that makes that noise. A Tzeentch portal probably goes or something. Tzeentch Warlord Traits. Add 1 to Psychic Test. Boon of Sorcery. Incorporeal Form. -1 to Wound. Fractal Mind. You can perform a psychic action and still manifest a psychic power. Warp Tether. The Warlord has the Warp Locus keyword, so that comes back to the deep striking shenanigans. Friendly demons within 12 inches reroll morale tests. Lawkeeper of Tzeentch. Add 6 inches to range of psychic powers. Tyrant of the Warp. Never suffers the perils of the Warp and shrugs mortal wounds on a 5+. They are so neat and succinct. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I didn't need... It didn't feel like a GCSE English exam trying to comprehend the paragraph. Relics of Tzeentch. These are more complex. Psycho Model. The Endless Grimoire. Oh, okay. The Americans attempt the following action. Study the Grimoire. If you pass, you gain a psychic power. If you spend the turn doing it, but if you pass it, you learn a new psychic power from the list. The Impossible Robe. Once per phase, reduce the damage of an incoming piece of damage to 0. The Ether Stave. When you manifest a psychic power or smite, if you roll 9 or more, can't be denied. Warp Fireblade. Add 1 to damage. Or modified wound rolls of 6 inflict mortal wounds in addition. Soulbane. Model with a Rod of Sorcery only. It's a hideous Rod of Sorcery. Soul Eater Stave. Psyker only. Regain wounds when you hit things. Maximum of 6. Grumble. Lord of Change. So here is a big difference in the stat line. So the Bloodthirster was 8-8 strength toughness. The Lord of Change is 6-7. Still 20 wounds though. But only a 5+ save against melee, but a 3+ save against range. You've got to get close to these things. Manifest 3 psychic powers, knows 3 psychic powers. Master of Magics. Add 1 to the result. If the model has 10 or more wounds remaining, add 2 to the result. So +2 to psychic tests, or +1 if he's injured. Oh, now that's interesting. So... Oh no, it's not interesting. It's got a degrading profile. I hadn't realised it had a degrading profile. I thought that was the... It's got this instead of a degrading profile, but there's a reason that it's on 3 lines. That's why. Yeah. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for core units nearby. So, in really simple terms, your Greater Demons are captains and your Heralds are lieutenants. Works. I'm going to skip over a few of the characters. And go to horrors. So you can take 2 different types of units. You can take pink horrors and blue horrors. Going to ignore blue horrors for a minute. So the short version of this, and I'm going to just flick to the points for a minute. Going the wrong way for the points. Come on, pointies. Okay, so a unit of blue horrors, a unit of pink horrors has 10 models. No more, no less. You cannot increase the size of this unit. And it's not 10 to 30, it's 10. And that is also true of Bloodletters, Demonets and Plague Bearers. And it has a fixed price. The Pink Horrors are 150 points. That is it. Nothing about reinforcement points. I'm hoping they go away in 10th edition. So, you have the Pink Horror profile. It's got a ballistic skill of 3+. Its strength and toughness are 3, which is what you expect. Its demonic save against melee is 6. Its demonic save against ranged is 3+. 3+ unmodifiable save. The demonic icon and instrument are the same. Now, so you have, as you would, if people are familiar, you have Pink Horrors, Blue Horrors, Brimstone Horrors, and the rules for splitting are still they're in here. That it exists. When a Pink Horror dies, you roll a d6. On a 4+, it splits to 2 Blue Horrors. When a Blue Horror dies, you roll a dice. On a 4+, it splits to another Brimstone Horror. I guess that represents that when things split, the resulting horror that comes from it could be just a minor mutation that really doesn't do anything on the battlefield, or it could caper off in a random direction. So I'm fine with that. The thing I think should say match play against it is you roll for the split after you finished shooting, but if there are no models left, you don't roll to split. So if you shoot all 10 Pink Horrors and kill them all, you cannot roll to split any of them. That feels narratively wrong, so I don't like that one bit. But yeah, you if the unit contains only Pink Horrors and Blue Horror, if the unit contains only Brimstone Horrors and Blue Horrors, it can't perform actions and it loses OBSEC. So you have to have Pink Horrors for that to hold true. You can take Blue Horrors as a separate unit. They're cheaper. So the Pink Horrors are not Psychers anymore. They have Coruscating Flames, which is 18 inches, Assault 2, +1 Strength, -1 AP. I am fine with that. That makes perfect sense to me. They're a decent battle line shooty unit. The Blue Horrors also have Coruscating Flames, which is also 18-inch range, Assault 2, +1 Strength, -1 AP. However, they're Strength 2, and their ballistic skill is 4. So you roll them separately. Their save against range is also worse. It's only 4+ for a Blue Horror and 5+ for a Brimstone Horror. I mean, these guys, they are basically there to slow you down and annoy you. That's their role, but they're a lot of fun. They really are a lot of fun, and I really do like them, and I'm going to be painting more. Now, these are the guys that will lose you friends. Flamers, between 3 and 6 in a unit. No random special rules. 3+ save against range, 6+ against melee. These are 25 points each. Each one is armed with Flickering Flames, which is a range 12, Assault D6 +3. Strength User, which is now 5. AP -2. AP everywhere. 1 damage. Auto hit. It's a flamer. The flamers are flamers. They've also now got 3 wounds. So they lose the ability. They used to be pistols, so they used to be able to be in melee with you and keep flaming. They lose that, but a unit of 6 does 18 + 6d6 hits at strength 5 -2. That's better than heavy bolter fire. That's like the equivalent of firing 30 heavy bolters. Yeah, about that. No, maybe even more. And they're better. 25 points each. These will lose you friends. Expect to see lots of... Well, I mean, what do I know about the competitive scene? Exalted Flamer. Big Flamer. can never have a relic or a warlord trait. Screamers. Quite like Screamers. 16-inch move. Strength 4, toughness 4, 3 wounds. 6+3+ on the saves. The Lamprey Bite doesn't need a stratagem to make it usable now. It's +2 strength, so it goes to 6. But there are spells that we went through earlier that can increase the strength, so that potentially goes up. -3, 2 damage. You could fly across units and do mortal wounds to them still. The Riders of the Immaterial Winds, I really like this, and it's so easy to remember. Instead of, if you want to advance with the unit, if you want, you can pick them up and deep strike them back in somewhere. So simple, so straightforward, so nice. And that's the Book of Tzeentch. Now, the Book of Contagion. Okay, the Exalted Powers for the Great Unclean Ones. Bountiful Gifts, 25 points. The model can retain up to 2 unspent Warpstorm points. Not stone, you're not a Skaven. Yes, yes. Hideous Visage. Gains the following aura ability. Subtract -1 from leadership and combat attrition if you're within 6 inches. I mean, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, just look, there's a picture of one here. Horrible. And Revoltingly Resilient. -1 to damage from incoming attacks to a minimum of 1. So you'll notice we haven't had any generic and all the Khorne demons get this and all the Tzeentch demons get this. It's all folded into their profiles, which is so nice. Nurgle Stratagems. Revolting Constitution. Plague Bearers. Short version. Unmodified wound rolls of 1 through 3 fail. I'm not a fan of that as a mechanic, because that means that you are just as likely to wound something with a las gun as you... No. You're just as likely to wound something with a heavy bolter as you are with an autocannon. It should be an extra -1. But the core mechanic doesn't allow for that. But given the core mechanic is what it is, it makes them more survivable from big incoming fire. But those are, if I remember rightly, toughness 5 anyway, so whoa. Chortling Murrain. Sloppity Bile Piper. Sloppity Bile Pipers are carriers of the deadly Chortling Murrain, a disease that causes those who contract it to laugh themselves to death. If you've got to go, I can think of worse ways than laughing to death. Select one enemy unit within 6 inches of a Sloppity Bile Piper. Roll a d6 for each model in that unit. For every roll that goes over their toughness, the unit suffers a mortal wound to a maximum. Yawn. Match play. Pestilential Inspiration, 1 command point. Use at the start of your stratagem phase on a Nurgle Psyker. Until the end of the phase, the model knows all the psychic powers from the Warp Rot discipline. I really like that. That makes them so utilitarian. And it's not... I like the notion that Psykers know all these powers. In the books, you know, they do all sorts of random... not random abilities. They know specific things that they use at specific times. And the notion that they don't know them at the rest of the time, I don't like and have never liked. So I like this. Get an extra relic. Slime Trail. Used for Beasts of Nurgle and Horticlus Slimux. Non-aircraft units have to roll a 4+ to be able to fall back. Swarming Flies. -1 to hit on a Nurgle demon unit to the end of the shooting phase. Crushing Bulk is the same. You know the one I explained about the Khorne demon, the Juggernauts, with the roll of 6 when they charge to do mortal wounds, and on a 6+ it's D3, on a 9+ it's more than that. It's the same thing. So it's Plague Drones, Beasts of Nurgle, or Great Unclean Ones. Roll a D6 for each model. On a 6+, just D3 mortal wounds. You add 3 to it if it's a Great Unclean One. So on a 4+ it'll do 3, and on a 6 it'll do an extra 3. Plague Banner. Select... Oh, I might have missed this. This might have been handy. Use it in melee. A modified wound roll of 6 inflicts a mortal wound and the attack sequence ends to a maximum of 6. Yawn. The Warprot Discipline. Right, hang in there, folks. I know we're an hour and 20 in and I've gone off in all sorts of different directions, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Stream of Corruption. Witchfire, 12-inch range, D3 mortal wounds, or extras if you roll well. Fleshy Abundance. Add 1 to the toughness characteristic of a friendly unit. Nurgle's Rot. Roll 2d6 for each enemy unit within 6 inches. If the roll's higher than their toughness, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. If it's double their toughness, they suffer D6 instead. Imagine that on a Great Unclean one. Charge it forward, get near all the enemy, and then just, yeah, you're going to rot away. Shriveling Pox, -1 to toughness. Virulent Blessing, add 1 to damage on melee weapons. Malodorous Paw, that's charming. Cast on a unit, can't perform actions, lose obsec. Warlord trait, Heaving Mass, +2 wounds. Acidic Ichor, when you attack it in melee, 4+ does mortal wounds back to the thing that attacked you to a maximum of 6. Virulent Touch, hits automatically wound in melee. Ouch time. Plaguefly Hive. Enemy unit within 6 inches of the Warlord, -1 to hit, cannot perform actions. There's a lot of action denial in Nurgle. Overflowing Fecundity. Wound rolls of 1 to 3 fail. Pestilent Miasma. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit in engagement range. On a 2 to 5 they take a mortal wound, on a 6 they take d3 mortal wounds at the start of the fight phase. I like all of these. I have, with the exception of there being too much AP and all of the caps on the mortal wound output, there's very little I don't like in this book. Relics of Nurgle. Some of these are a bit wordier. Corruption, add 1 to damage. Pick a weapon they're equipped with, add 1 to damage. Each time an attack is made, it cannot use rules that ignore wounds. The Effluvior, model with the Plague Flail only, with a better stat line. Endless Gift. Start of the command phase, the bearer regains up to a number of lost wounds equal to the current battle round. Oh, they just won't die. Entropic Knell. Command phase, select a unit within 12 inches. Enemy units can't benefit from their auras. And treat the unit as half its number from an objective controlling point of view. Tome of 1,000 Poxes. No 1 additional psychic power. And if... oh, I like this. And if the result of the psychic test is a 7, not 7 or more, is a 7, there's a 1 in 6 chance of that, it can't be denied. Then the Horn of Nurgle's Rot. After the bearer is selected to fight, pick a unit of plague bearers within 18 inches. Roll a d6 for every enemy model that was destroyed by the bearer. For each okay, so well, there's a maximum number of models in this, but basically you blow the horn and you put plague bearers back into units for models you've destroyed in melee. You kill some dudes, you blow your horn, you get more plague bearers. Nice. Right, Great Unclean One. Strength 7, toughness 9. 9. Nice. 22 wounds. 5 plus save in melee, 4 plus at range. Special rules is the captain, reroll 1s. 2 psychic powers. Cast 2, nose 2. And a bunch of weapons. Poxbringer has got the Herald thing, so reroll wound rolls of 1. Pick a unit within 6, add 1 to damage characteristics when they roll 6 to wound. Nothing gross. It's a Psyker. Toughness 6, 6 wounds. 4 plus at range. These are designed not to die. They really are. Okay, so here's some fun stuff. Plague Bearers. Move of 5. Weapon skill 4. Strength 4. Toughness 5. 2 wounds. 2 attacks. 4 plus save at range. 5 plus close in. Plague Sword. Isn't that strength user? So 4. Minus 2 AP. Unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. Now you see, this is one thing I'm not. It's the AP thing again. The Plague Sword should just be one. If it gets through your armor, it ruddy kills you because you get very ill very quick. Not, it's got the same stopping power as a crack missile, which is what that says. I take all of my yardsticks with what the AP should be from how they converted things at the start of 8th ed. Heavy Bolter, minus 1. Autocannon, minus 1. Crack Missile, minus 2. Las Cannon, minus 3. Multi-Melter, minus 4. So every time I see minuses on here, I equate it with what weapon are they saying it's as good as for breaking armour. Oh, I'm almost finished my second Coke. We've been doing this an hour and a half. And how many have we got to go? Oh god, there's still a chunk of the book to go. Nurglings cannot be used to fill a compulsory battlefield slot in a detachment. Good. Mischief Makers. They can't deep strike anymore, but they can infiltrate. If they can set up nearer the enemy, more than 9 inches away. Strength 2, toughness 3, 4 wounds, 6 up save in melee, 5 plus against shooting. Yeah, that looks right. That kind of feels right. Beast of Nurgle. Toughness 6, 7 wounds, 4 plus save at range. 6 attacks, minus 2 AP, 2 damage. A modified hit roll of 6 inflicts 2 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. These are kind of corrosive and acidy, so I'm less bothered about these. They're not sort of, you die of accelerated flu. They are, I'm going to vomit acid on you and you're going to melt. I'm fine with that. There are a couple of rules for this. Basically, they explode when you kill them. They can potentially do mortal wounds. Grotesque regeneration. This I love. At the end of each phase, if a model in this unit has lost any wounds but it was not destroyed, that model regains all its lost wounds. They have 7 wounds. You've got to do 7 wounds to the unit in a phase to kill one, or they just get better. I love it. Note to self, buy more. I've only got 1. I want a unit of 3. I've got 1. I've got my old, like, Rogue Trader era metal beasts. They don't look great these days, so I'm not really using those. I've got 1 of these new ones, but I've always wanted another 2 to make it 3. Nurgle's other number. To have 3 of them together. And now, it just makes me so happy. It just makes me so happy. They've also got the Attention Seeker rule in there. And they can perform heroic interventions. Same as as it used to. But it can do it within 6 inches. 6-inch heroic intervening beast. I love them. I absolutely love them. And it's so sad the way, this is probably just an AOS thing, but they just want to play and they want to be your friends, and eventually they get so sad that people keep running away from them that when they go back to Nurgle's garden, they roll up on the floor and cry and eventually form a pupa and mutate into an embittered rotfly that just wants to kill, that then gets ridden into battle by plague bearers. Speaking of which, plague drones. That must just be an AOS thing, I think. I choose to believe it's relevant to 40k. So plague drones are fast. 10-inch move. Strength 5, toughness 6, 5 wounds, 4+ save at range. The mouth, but you have got a choice of mouth parts, which is nice. The models come with 2 different mouth part choices. You can either put proboscises on them, sort of elephanty trunks, or they can have gnashy, sharp, pointy teeth. And they've got different stats. The foul mouth parts, strength 5 -2 to damage, malefic 2. You're going to get 2 attacks with those. The prehensile proboscises are 4 -2, 1, malefic 4. I like that. Then you're pretty much into plague swords, which is cool. So the Fecundant Gnarlmaw. Start of your turn, roll a d6 for each enemy unit within engagement range. 2 to 5 they suffer a mortal wound, 6 they suffer d3. Enemy models that are destroyed as a result of these gain a warp storm point. Shroud of Flies, if you're within 6 inches of this thing, it's -1 to hit you. Is it just range? Yes, just range. And the Plague Bells Chime. In the command phase, you can pick a core unit and roll 7d6. On a 6, you return a destroyed model. What's core? The Plague Drones are core! Please tell me the beasts are core. The beasts aren't core. Neither are Nurglings, but the Plague Bearers are, so you can return Plague Drones and Plague Bearers with it. Nice. They can set up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from your opponent's deployment zone. 7 wounds. Toughness 7, 9 wounds. 3+ save from shooting, 4+ in melee. Got to get to him and hack him to pieces. But you get close to him, you start taking mortal wounds, which starts feeding the warp storm pointiness. Nice. Okay. Now, last but by no means least, the Book of Excess. So, Exalted Keepers of Secrets. Diaphanous Panoply. -1 from ranged attacks. Epicurean of Agonies. Epicurean, yes, an aficionado of Agonies. Unmodified hit rolls in melee score additional hit. Insatiable Onslaught, add 2 to advance and charge. Right, Slaanesh Stratagems. Thirst for Souls. Reroll hit and wound rolls when you're attacking Eldar. Ah! Razor Sharp Caress. Play it on Demonets. If you wound a modified wound roll of 6, improve the armor pen by 1. Endless Dance. Play it on Demonets. When you pile in on Consolidate, you move an additional D3. Additional 3 inches. Impossible Elegance. Start the fight phase. Pick a character. Until the end of the phase, unmodified hit rolls of 1 to 3 always fail. So that I also dislike, because that means a custodian has the same chance of hitting it as a guardsman does. Not a fan of that type of rule. Exquisite Gifts, more relics. Melodic Delirium. Start the psychic phase. Select a fiend unit, and they gain an aura. If you're taking a psychic test within 12 inches of that unit, -2 from the result. Race Through the Warp. Slanesh vehicles, excluding Soul Grinders, so basically all the Chariot types, you can remove from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. Slicing the skein of reality, Slaneshi charioteers steer their charge into the warp before re-emerging to run the enemy down. Rapturous Standard. Fight phase, pick a unit with an icon. Until the end of the phase, each time the unit reroll to hit and melee. Reroll to hit and melee. Okay. Now the Soul Stain Discipline. Cacophonic Choir. Roll 3d6 for every point it beats your leadership. Take a mortal wound. Max 6. Symphony of Pain. Cast it on a unit. They're -1 to hit and wound roll from that point onwards. In melee. Hysterical Frenzy. Cast it on a demon, a Slanesh demon unit. Add 1 to attack characteristic. 6s explode. Delightful Agonies. 5+ Shrug. Purveying of Slanesh. Roll it's a Witchfire. Roll a d6 for each model of the unit. On a 5+, it suffers a 1 mortal wound. Max 6. Phantasmagoria. Roll 6d6. Oh, you pick a unit. Roll 6d6 for each 5+ to suffer a mortal wound. At the start of the next psychic phase, each time it suffers a wound as a result of this. Oh, right, okay, so you... For every wound you do it, you reduce its leadership by 1 till the next command phase. So if you do it 4 mortal wounds, its leadership drops by 4. Nice. Warlord traits. Warp Mist, keep 2 unspent warp points. Fatal Caress. On a modified wound roll of 5+, invulnerable saves cannot be made. The Murder Dance. If you charge, +d3 attacks. Quicksilver Duelist. Reroll to hit. Enemies cannot reroll... Oh no, and if you're fighting a character, reroll to wound. Savage Hedonist. At the start of each battle round, add 1 to the Warlord's strength characteristic to a maximum of 3+. Aura of Bewitchment. While an enemy unit within 6 inches cannot perform actions, if an action is being performed when it comes into range, this immediately fails. That's nice. There's some action screwing with shenanigans in this book. Relics. Forbidden Gem. Pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of the bearer. Aura abilities do not affect them. Mark of Excess. Add 1 to attack characteristic. Each time it makes a melee attack that destroys a character, a monster, or a vehicle, add 1 to its attack characteristic. Soul Stealer is a better sword. Slothful Claws. Add 1 to damage. If a target unit loses wounds as a result of this, it can't benefit from aura abilities. De-auraing, nice. Silver Strike, a better sword. Whip of Agony. Change the type and characteristic to Assault 8. Always wounds on a 4+. Okay, Keeper of Secrets. Strength 6, toughness 7, 20 wounds. 4+ in save in melee. It's got the friendly units reroll 1 to hit. Mesmerizing Form, -1 to hit it. And then a bunch of weapons. so many chariots. They're hard to tell apart. Let's go through the Demonets, the Fiends, and the Seekers. Demonets. Move of 10. They are so fast. Weapon skill 3+. Strength 4 now. Still toughness 3. 4+ save at range. 4 attacks each. Their piercing claws are now AP -2, so crack missile. The thing I like is that all the special rules are folded into the profile. There's nothing special. Fiends, 14-inch move. Hitting on 3, strength 5, toughness 4, 4 wounds. 4+ save, 5 in melee. Dissecting claws, strength -2, 2 damage. Soporific musk. If you're with engagement range of this model, you subtract 1 to hit. Yeah, mate, that's fine. Good with that. Seekers. 16-inch move. Toughness 4, 2 wounds. Lashing Tongue is a strength 4 malefic weapon. Malefic 2 weapon. Unholy Speed, add 1 to charge rolls for this unit. But even that, it's only about 7 words. Let's pick a chariot to go through. So the Seeker Chariot. 14-inch move, 3+ to hit, strength 4, toughness 5, 7 wounds, 8 attacks, 4+4+ save. Lashes of Torment or Assault 6 ranged weapons with a 6-inch range. The Piercing Claws are the 8 attacks. It's the equivalent of 2 Demonets. Seeker Tongues, Malefic 4. Evasive Speed, so you're -1 to hit it when you're shooting at it. Scything Impact, when you've charged, roll 4d6 for each enemy unit within engagement range. On a 5+, they take a mortal wound. Until the end of the turn, add 2+ to the model's attack characteristic. It doesn't feel like that adds very much. But it's the same for all the Seeker Chariots, or seems to be anyway. Okay, so then we have the Book of the Warp, which is the generic stuff. Now, I'm not going to go through this in too much detail. So, Bellacor. This is basically Bellacor's army. Bellacor's now strength 8, toughness 7, 20 wounds, 4+4+ save. He has a rule called Shadow Form. You cannot reroll hit rolls against him. You're at -1 to hit him and to wound him, and you're -1 damage to damage him, which is nice. There is the Noctic Discipline, which Bellacor can tap into. Wreathed in Shades cannot target unless they're within 12 inches or the nearest firing model. Penumbral Curse. Subtract 1 from attack and wound and worsen armor penetration by 1. It's all sort of shadowy, hidey type stuff. So there's a few. So there's a specific Bellacor section to the book, which I'll come on to in just a sec. But then we have 2 generic units that you have to give a demon word to when you get them. That's the Demon Prince and the Soul Grinder. So I've forgotten they were in this order. Just going to press pause on the Bellacor stuff. So the Demon Prince of Chaos has an 8-inch move, weapon skill 2+, strength of 7, toughness 6, 8 wounds, 6 attacks, 4+ save against range, 5 in melee. Demon core units can reroll hit rolls of 1 because of the Prince of Chaos rule. If it's a Tzeentch, Nurgle or Slanesh unit, they gain a psychic power each. The Khorne ones don't. But just to interestingly make a point, that upgrading it to a particular type of demon, if I can even find the page, does not cost anything. It's a flat cost. There's a couple of things for the different upgrades you can give it, but that's it. The axe, the sword, the wings, doesn't cost you anything to change between the demon types, which is nice. But you also, as well as the Psyker bit for having a demon allegiance, there's a demonic reward. Khorne demons add +1 to strength and +2 to attacks. So neatly, that means that the Khorne demon prince has a strength of 8 and 8 attacks. Feels nice. Tzeentch demon princes can cast an additional psychic power, and they know an additional psychic power. Nurgle demons +1 to toughness, so they're tougher. Slaanesh demons +2 to move, so they move 10. You can also give them wings, move characteristic of 12, and the fly keyword. So because the Slaanesh, I would interpret that as a Slaanesh demon has a flying Slaanesh demon has a move of 14. You then have the Soul Grinder. Again, you don't have to pay for the various things. It's a flat cost. Strength 8, toughness 8, 16 wounds, 4+ save at range 5 in melee. But you get the demonic rewards again. Khorne, add 2 to its attacks, taking it to 7. Tzeentch, its save goes to 4+4+, so it's harder to kill in melee. Nurgle, +1 toughness, making it toughness 9. And Slaanesh, add 4 to its move, making it move of 12. Nice. Nice. Right. So, we're now into the Disciples of Bellacor stuff. Oh, interestingly, the Crusade stuff is now at the back of the book, which works for me because I don't use it, and it doesn't get in the way of what I'm looking for. Just apropos of nothing. Right. The Disciples of Bellacor. There's some really complicated, there's some very, very wordy stuff, and I'm not going to attempt to go through it all in detail. But basically, you have to take one of each demon flavour before you can take a second. So you have to have a mix of all the demon types. Bellacor must be the Warlord. There is not an option to not have Bellacor in the army. You can also include a single so there are a bunch of restrictions, and a lot of it's around demon engines, certain types of marines, because you can form marines into this army, which is in the benefits section. So I won't go too much into the restrictions, but all your army gains the Disciples of Bellacor keyword. All units in your army with the trait of Astartes gain the Legion Disciples keyword. All the demons gain the Legion Disciples keyword. You can take a Chaos Knight House Korvax unit. It gains the Agent of Chaos keyword. Because normally I think you have to have a Dreadblade for it to gain the Agent of Chaos keyword. So you can take a knight in this from that house. All troop units in the army gain Obsec. If the detachment contains units of Traitor Astartes with Legion keywords, they lose them. You can use Bellacor just lead. Basically, you can take Marines without penalty. They lose their original Legion stuff, but gain the Disciples of Shadows Legion trait, which is add 1 to combat attrition tests, and if you get shot at by more than 12 inches away, it's -1 to hit. And then there are stratagems. The Shadow Pact. Select one of the pacts until your following command phase. Pact of Blood, add 1 to attacks characteristic. Pact of Fate, unit has a 5+ invulnerable save. Pact of Plague, add 1 to toughness. Pact of Excess, add 1 to move, and 1 to advance and charge rolls. Demonic Boon, I'd want a strength characteristic of that unit. Melee attacks of 6 automatically wound. Mortal Boon. Oh, that's nice. So this stratagem lets you auto-pass a morale save for a demon unit if they're close to an Astartes unit. So feeding off the mortal energies. Blessing of Bellacor. When a saving throw is made, change the damage characteristic to 0. So it really is shadow play type stuff. So yeah, not gone into that in as much detail. The points, I mean, they're all on 2 pages. There's no big list of 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, this all costs. Most units, and we're looking at the Khorne, unit cost 90, 310, 100, 140, 330, 130, 110. There's only 2 units that have got variable sizes. They're the Blood Crushers and the Flesh Hounds. Similarly with the Tzeentch ones, Screamers are a variable unit size, so are Flamers. The rest of them are fixed. Nurglings, Beasts of Nurgle, Plague Drones, they're variable sizes. The rest are fixed. It's a much slimmer way of picking what you need to take in your army. And I, for one, like it. So we're going to leave it there because we're nearly at the 2-hour mark. To summarise, I really like this book. Most of it's pretty intuitive, and you can get what you need to know quickly without having to spend a long time wading through the verbiage. Some things are really nice and succinct, and many of all the complex special rules have just been folded in to the stat line of the unit, which I really like. And it's laid out in a way that's straightforward and intuitive, and with my gripes around 9th edition and match play aside, even the bits that are sort of flavour adding are pretty straightforward to they're pretty accessible. It feels accessible. So yeah, I am putting this down as a big tick. This is a win for me, and I hope it indicates the direction of travel, because I can play this army. I know that I'm going to be able to play this without my brain really hurting, and as such, I like it. It gives me great hope for the Guard Codex, which hopefully is coming next, and other codices, and 10th edition. I'm hoping. Are we going to get 40k back? I don't know. Feels like I've lost it for a long time. It'd be nice to have it back. On that note, I hope you enjoyed all 2 hours of this crazy video. Did not think it was going to take that long. I mean, it's like 4 o'clock now and I haven't picked up a brush yet. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you want to support me, if you check out the video description, there are a number of ways that allow you to do that. You can become a channel member and get access to our Discord and exclusive videos like bat reps, depending on which membership you go for. Also, if you do your hobby shopping using one of the stores to which I have an affiliate link, if you check the channel description below, you'll see links to Element Games and Firestorm Games. If you click the link, they know you've come from me, and I get commission on your order, which is super nice. There's also Patreon available for anyone who wants it, and there's also Super Thanks that these videos do now. You can go to Super Thanks and go, I enjoyed that video, have a quid, or something to that effect. Every little helps. Big thank you to all my Patreons, my channel members, my supporters, anyone who uses my affiliate links, and all of you. Thank you all for watching this video. If you have made it this far and haven't gone, finally he's finished talking, I'm going to turn off the rambling fool. On that happy note, take care. See you in the next one. Bye.